Happy Wednesday. Welcome to this week's Increase class. If you are watching on YouTube and you want to get involved in the class, we are also on Zoom on a live link. I'm going to go ahead and put the link in the class. There's a passcode to get in, but after the class, I'm going to stick around on the Zoom to answer questions, just kind of get into the topic of the class a little bit. So I hope that you'll take the time to join me. All right, welcome to this week's Increase class. I'm Blake Anderson. So this week, we're just going to keep marching down the field of success. I hope you've joined us for the weeks prior. And in weeks prior, you've known that we've been talking about the internal game. Last week, we focused on the fact that success starts inside. The success that you're going to experience in your life is going to be the product of your character, your standard, and the decisions you make. It's going to be the result of who you've become on the inside. I love this quote that we talked about last week from Dr. Wayne Dyer. Before he passed, he said, "You don't get what you want, you get what you are." And I truly believe that to achieve any real success, you will have to become that success. As you're waiting for the door of opportunity to open for you, you're going to have to become that opportunity before it can even present itself. And so this week just continues to march down the field as we are growing up in our inner man and we're preparing ourselves for greater things. We've got to understand how this whole process works. And this week's entitled How Success Grows. So it's super important that you understand how success grows. Because if you don't understand the growth curve of success, you might find yourself lost. You might find yourself discouraged, and heaven forbid, you might give up just on the verge of your breakthrough. You might give up on the doorstep of your opportunity. And I wouldn't want you to do that. So if you'll stick with me here, I'm going to share some truths that I've lived. I think we can see it throughout the Bible. We can see it in nature, and we surely can see it in the examples that are all around us. So if we think about how success grows, I think about two particular topics that I want to cover. And the first I want to cover is the curve. And the second topic I want to cover is the spiral. And before we get out of here, we're going to link those together. And hopefully you leave this 20 to 30 minute teaching empowered to know what you can expect on the journey ahead of you on the road to your success. So again, we remember that growth starts in the inside long before we see it on the outside. So when I think about success and I think about the journey to success, I think one way to think about it is in terms of a growth curve. So let's just plot success growth curve on a graph. And so we have this graph here, and most of us get super excited about a goal. We start working really hard at the beginning of the year because we have goals, and 2023 is going to be the best year ever. And we get really excited. And if you're like anything like I've been in the past, you kind of expected, based on the amount of energy you are putting right out the gate, that your success is going to look like this. Straight up, because you're giving it all that you have. And this is a brilliant idea, and it's your time and it's your season. Well, unfortunately, this part of the curve, it comes, but it doesn't come right away. What you've got to really understand about success in anything, whether you're talking about a new business, a new career, you are putting a group together or building a ministry, whatever you are working on, your success is likely going to follow this curve. And so hopefully you'll begin to see yourself there. I know I'd prefer straight up. I'm impatient and I like to run straight after it. But success on a curve over time. And so right here we have time. Now, on this axis is results. Okay. I'm not going to get too mathematical on you here, but I think you'll be able to see this. Success looks like this. We get super excited about this straight up growth. But what we've got to really embrace is the process that success is one step at a time down the path, And what's going on here, and let's link these two topics together. We talked last week about how it starts on the inside. Success starts inside. This is the internal growth before it can become externally shown. So here's a picture that I want to paint, that we look in nature to see the power of this concept, and it's the bamboo tree. And maybe you've heard this before, but if you haven't, really listen up. And I want you to see how your success in your life can really follow this. Bamboo is just an amazing plant, and it's an amazing tree. And what's so amazing about it is how fast it grows. We get so excited about how it can proliferate and all the wonderful things that we can do with it. It's sustainable, it's renewable, it sucks up carbon, it helps the soil, it helps with water, all these wonderful things about bamboo. But here's the interesting thing about bamboo. Bamboo doesn't even come out of the ground for 5 years. Bamboo will grow its roots for 5 years. Bamboo shows us how this growth curve plays out in nature. For 5 solid years, bamboo is growing strong in the ground. It's putting down roots. It's putting down roots. It's putting down roots. But when it's finally ready to spring forth, bamboo will grow 35 inches a day. It can grow almost 3 feet in a single day and can grow up to 18 feet tall after its 5 years of roots. So you see, bamboo has got a long period of some slow, unseen growth where it doesn't get recognized for its hard work. It doesn't get recognized for its late nights. It doesn't get recognized for the books that it reads, for the working out that it does, for the meditation that it does, for the studying, for the refining of its craft. It doesn't get acknowledged for those 5 years of that internal growth until it finally shoots up out of the ground. And then it does wonders. Such is the case with most of our success. We don't see the fruit right away. And what we've got to realize is our fruit, and the quality and the volume of our fruit, is going to be the product of our roots, the depth of our roots and the strength of our roots. And that is going to take time. It's going to take failures. It's going to take skin knees. It's going to take razor thin margins. It might take a loss for a couple of months. It might take some light paychecks. But if you're like bamboo and you can persist, you can decide that failure is a choice that you make or don't, and that failure only happens when you quit. And instead, if you'll persist down your path, it's only a matter of time before, like bamboo, you break through the ground and you get to experience the results that you dreamed of, the reasons you started your business, the reason that you got into your nursing profession. And so there was a great book, came out in 2008, written by Malcolm Gladwell. It's called Outliers. And this is really, the book was called, subtitled The Story of Success. If you haven't read it, it's a really interesting read. Malcolm Gladwell's known for pulling a bunch of different studies together to prove some points. And he's studying success in this book and the outliers. And the interesting thing about these world changers and people that end up at the tops of their lists and how they came about. And most of the time, we think that everyone's an overnight success. When he really digs into an outliers, that there is no such thing. He comes up with a rule that studies found that it takes 10,000 hours to perfect your craft. 10,000 hours. So put that into terms, most people work about 2,000, an average work year is 2,000 hours. 50 weeks, 2 weeks off a year, 40-hour weeks, you get 2,000 hours a year. It's going to take you 5 years to hit your 10,000 hour mark. But what they've noticed, when anyone hit their 10,000 hour mark in their craft, in their sport, in their musicianship, they broke through and they began to elevate themselves head and shoulders over their competition and over everyone else. And so an interesting study, a couple interesting stories. One was a study they did on world-class musicians in Germany. And you had 3 tiers. You had the tops of the tops. You had the pretty good, probably wouldn't play professional musicians. And then you had what they called the public school music teachers. And it's easy to think that they were born this way and then they were gifted, but they did a study to find out how much time they had put in to get to their point they were at age 20. And the reality was every single time without fail, the categories were lumped together based on the amount of time they had put into growing their craft. So the best of the best, it was easy to say that they were born that way. And maybe they were, but the reality was they had just put in the time. They had hit their 10,000 hour mark, where group 2 was only at 6,000 to 8,000, and group 3 had barely hit 4,000 hours. So they had put in their time. Like bamboo, they took the time to put some serious roots down so that they could really shoot up and grow tremendously all at once. I hope this is starting to hit you right now. Maybe you've had times in your life where you really felt that mastery spring on. And if you can reflect back on those results, it would be after long hours of refining your craft, of getting better at your business or your job or whatever that you are working on. It takes time and it takes commitment. So the first way we got to understand how success grows is through the success growth curve. This increase curve is a long season of some slow, unseen growth until it hits its 10,000 hour mark. So I want to add in this next concept, because to fully understand that, we need to understand the spiral. What is the spiral? Well, look around in nature. You'll see it everywhere. The divine spiral can be seen throughout all of the creation. You'll see it. Mathematicians call it the Fibonacci sequence. It's a spiral that continues to get bigger, but we see it every day in our sleep. We rest. We have a slow wake up. We have the peak of our day with all of our energy. We have our wind down with family at night, and then we rest again. We breathe in, we breathe out. The ocean comes in, the ocean goes out. The seasons come, the seasons go. We rest in the winter. We plant in the spring to have growth in the summer, to yield a harvest in the fall, only to have more rest again in the winter. It's the spiral. And we need to add this spiral to our growth curve to truly understand how we're going to live this out. Growth and success is a long commitment towards what you are pursuing before you eventually get to the top. Yeah, Carla, seasons of life, exactly where we're going. You get it. Now we're going to understand this spiral, as Carla, who's joined us on Zoom, has said. It's the seasons of life. This curve will not be experienced without its seasons. There's no way around it. I'm sorry. It will happen this way. You will experience seasons, not just in the temperature outside, but the seasons in the growth of your success, in the growth of your character as you're pursuing success. So you're going to live this curve out like this. It's the seasons of life, and you are going to continue to go around those curves. So how do we need to understand this? What do we need to take into consideration in mind when it comes to this spiral and it comes to this, and it comes to living this out? Well, as we continue down our path, you're going to start making progress one day, and then without any forewarning, that progress is going to stop, and you're going to feel your business or your job or your momentum begin to slow down. You're likely going to begin to see it regress. And if you haven't put this spiral on your growth curve and on your strategy, you may even give up and think this success is short-lived, and maybe this isn't my time, and maybe this isn't for me. But I'm going to tell you, this is how the spiral works. You're going to pull back, but guess what the pullback is doing? This setback is a setup. What's going on is you are pulling back into a rest. As things are getting cleansed, detoxed, they're getting rested, and they're getting regrouped inside of you so that you can spring forward again for yet another season of expansion and growth. And then you'll likely get to a point right around here where you feel like it's going to be time to lift off after you've done this spiral a time or two. But guess what? Likely right when you think you're about to lift off, you're going to do a spiral again, and there'll be a pullback, but it won't be because you did anything wrong. It'll be the seasons of life and the seasons of growth as you are growing on the inside. And remember what we said last week, your external results is a mirror image of your internal reality, meaning this, who you are on the inside produces your results on the outside. So you're going to max out your results in a certain season, and you're going to need to then take a season of regrouping, of building roots again before you can grow again to that next plateau and that next threshold. It doesn't mean give up. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. It means it's time to build up again so that you can make another launch. So this spiral is going to continue. Now, you're going to have times where this spiral happens a lot quicker and times where you have longer periods of growth, but it will be along the spiral. Now, if you've yet to experience in life, you may be on the downward spiral and it's not really making sense. But if you'll just stick with this class, if you'll show up every Wednesday, if you'll watch these replays, we're going to begin to put you on the path where you can start making progress, where you're going to start growing on the inside, and the only natural result possible will be your results will change, will be that the outside will begin to grow to match who you've become on the inside. And then you're going to begin to experience this spiral of growth. And yes, along this spiral of growth, there's going to be dips in income. There's going to be a slowdown in some business. There's going to be times where it's for longer rests and naps on the weekends. It's not, there won't be burning the candle at both ends in all seasons. You might do this for a time until you have to regroup again. But it's going to be really important that you follow that. Think of the seasons again as we follow it. We have a spring and it begins to grow and spring out. And we have expansion in the summer. And this growth curve then hits its harvest in the fall. And after that harvest season, it's going to go into a winter. And winter is an important season. And what I would tell you today, if you find yourself in a winter, is thank God for the time he's giving you now. God bless the winters. You'll long for them when you're in the heat of summer and when the summer's hot upon you, because the winter is the time when you put things together, where you get organized, where you clear out the filing cabinets, where you put the plans. Maybe you get that rest that you don't get in the summer. Have you noticed the sunlight in the summer is so long that there's really not much time to rest? Days get so short when in the winter we have all this darkness. And I think God is naturally has this creation in this rhythm that it can take care of itself, that it can self-sustain over time, and that can heal itself. So here's what I want to tell you as you're on your spiral. There's 3 things that you really need to embrace when you're walking on your growth curve. Well, really 4. The first we've already talked about. It all starts on the inside. You got to grow on the inside so you can experience the growth on the outside. But the things I want to tell you today is this will take time. There is no such thing as an overnight success. In the book Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell tells the story of the Beatles, and we all know the Beatles, they're world famous. And the Beatles hit the scene in the early 60s, and they went around the world and they put the music industry on fire, and everybody thought that they were an overnight success. But by now we know that's not possible. There is no such thing. You see, the secret to their success was not in their British invasion of the US. The secret of their success was not in their hometown of Liverpool. The secret to the success of the Beatles came in Hamburg, Germany. Between 1960 and 1962, they spent a significant amount of time in Hamburg, Germany. This is where they became a band. This is where they put the roots down, and this is where they put their 10,000 hours in. They got a gig at a bar, and they would have to play for 5 hours a night. They once played 106 nights in a row. 5 hours a night, 106 nights in a row over and over and over again. And you can bet by the time they left Hamburg, Germany, they were the Beatles and they were ready to take the world by storm. And such can be the case for you if you'll commit to the time it takes and understand it won't happen tomorrow, but it will happen if you continue to progress down that curve. And so it's going to take commitment. You're going to have to be committed to the goal you want. You're going to have to be committed to the path you're on. You're going to have to be committed to the vision and the destiny that God has put forward in your dreams. And you're going to have to put your reps in. You cannot progress down this curve and down your path just by sitting on your laurels and taking naps. This progression is internal progression. You are going to have to take the time to put your reps in as a business owner, put your reps in with the sales calls, put your reps in with the YouTube videos, put your reps in with the proposals, put your reps in with the meetings. You're going to have to put the reps in because you've got to get your 10,000 hours under your belt. Now, it's not 10,000 hours with your eyes open. It's 10,000 hours growing in your craft, growing on the inside. And I can guarantee you, as the Bible says in Galatians chapter 6, verse 9, but don't be weary in well-doing, for in due season you shall reap. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1 says a very similar thing. To everything there is a season and a time, to every purpose under the heaven. And I promise you, God has purposed your life to do great things. If you will commit to the path that he's put before you and understand that as you put roots down, then you are strengthening yourself to bear much fruit. And it will be a seasonal march towards your success. So I hope that you'll join me next week as we're going to just continue to build on these concepts of increase, these principles of success. As we say here, these are spiritual principles that we learn to apply to get the natural results that the Bible promises. So YouTube, if you're on YouTube Live, the link's in the chat. I hope you'll come over here and join me on Zoom. I'm going to stick around probably till 8 o'clock-ish, and we can do some talking about the concepts. So if you're on Zoom, just sit tight.